Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're tearing off the mask of society to explore the silent passenger lurking in your DNA. We're going to dive into the hidden architecture of your mind, the very stuff that governs your decisions and dictates your choices when absolutely no one is watching. It's fascinating, kind of terrifying, and absolutely universal. We all love to believe we're the rational, kind, and fully in control heroes of our own stories, don't we? It's a really comfortable narrative. But today, we're going to completely strip away that comfort. We need to confront the unsettling truths that human nature literally spends a lifetime trying to hide. Because to truly understand ourselves, we have to be willing to look into the shadows. Section 1. The Thin Civilization Veneer. Or, as I like to call it, apes in suits. Our modern world, with all its crazy technology, towering skyscrapers, and complex laws, might look incredibly sophisticated. But the reality? Civilization is just a very thin coat of paint on an incredibly old, deeply chaotic house. We haven't actually outgrown our ancient shadows. We've just figured out how to camouflage them. We wear suits, we sip our morning coffee, we stop at red lights, but underneath that extremely thin veneer, the chaotic, survival-driven ancient house is still fully intact. We are driven by the exact same impulses that kept us alive on the savannah thousands of years ago. Moving right along to Section 2, the limits of empathy, often called the empathy gap. So we're constantly told to care about everyone, everywhere. And, we tell ourselves that we do. But the science of the brain tells a radically different story about why we actually don't care about others nearly as much as we claim to. The truth is, human empathy just isn't an infinite resource. It is strictly limited by our evolutionary biology. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar actually found a direct physical correlation between primate brain size, specifically the neocortex, and the size of their social groups. Our brains literally do not have the processing power to maintain genuine, stable social relationships beyond a very specific threshold. And that magic number? It's about 150. We are biologically capped at truly caring for roughly 150 individuals. If you look closely at history, this number pops up everywhere. Historic hunter-gatherer villages naturally split up the second they got larger than 150 people. Basic military units, historically capped right around this number too. Why? Because beyond 150, social cohesion just breaks down without rigid rules and hierarchies. This evolutionary bottleneck basically forces us to unconsciously divide the entire world into us, the people inside our cognitive circle, and them, the billions of people on the outside. Because our empathy is so highly selective and tribal, we experience this bizarre emotional disconnect. We can feel a profound, numbing indifference to thousands of strangers suffering in a distant tragedy on the evening news, yet be completely, utterly shattered by a minor personal inconvenience, like losing our car keys or spilling our coffee. It feels terrible to admit, but we are literally wired to prioritize our immediate tribe over the abstract masses. Empathy, at its core, is a deeply scarce resource. All right, Section 3, the architecture of evil, widely known as the Lucifer effect. Here, we really have to challenge the deeply comforting idea that evil is just a specific type of person. A monster hiding in the dark, completely separate from you and me. Famous psychological experiments like the Stanford Prison Experiment or the Milgram shock studies show us something deeply unsettling. In the Milgram study, perfectly normal, everyday people were totally willing to deliver what they genuinely believed were lethal, agonizing electric shocks to a stranger. Why? Simply because a guy in a lab coat, an authority figure, calmly instructed them to do it. Evil isn't necessarily a personality trait. It is highly situational. Perfectly good, rational people will do absolutely horrific things if they're placed in the right system. The data here reveals a terrifying reality. Under intense pressure from a recognized, legitimate authority figure, historical and psychological data suggests that up to 90% of us are capable of committing atrocities. 90%. It's so easy to look back at history and confidently think, well, I would have been the resistor, but the numbers just say otherwise. The barrier between good and evil is so much more fragile than we ever want to admit. Most of us are quite literally just one bad environment away from becoming the villain. Section 4, the illusion of desire, or mimetic desire. Moving from our morals to our motivations. You probably sit there thinking you are this fiercely independent individual, making your own choices about your career, your partner, your lifestyle, right? Well, philosopher René Girard's theory of mimetic desire shatters that illusion entirely. The uncomfortable truth is, you don't actually know what you want. We rarely want things because we intrinsically need them, we want them simply because other people want them. Think about a specific career path you chose, or maybe a luxury item you suddenly felt you just had to buy. Did you deeply desire it in a vacuum, or did society signal to you that it was valuable? Our desires are constantly mimicking the desires of others around us. Your identity is often just a copy of a copy. Think about how this vicious cycle plays out today. Step 1, we see what others want. Step 2, we subconsciously copy that desire. And step 3, we fiercely compete for the associated status. We are totally trapped in these endless social media loops of comparison and envy. You see a peer post a picture of a pristine kitchen or an exotic vacation, and suddenly, your perfectly fine life feels utterly inadequate. We blindly follow these steps just to win against our peers, exhausting our bank accounts and our mental health for goals that were honestly never ours to begin with. It's just an endless treadmill of status competition that nobody actually wins. Section 5. The hypocrisy of virtue, the virtue mask. Hitting perhaps the deepest and most defensive layer of our primal self, we need to take a hard, objective look at why we actually perform good deeds. What is the hidden mechanism behind our morality? Well, from an evolutionary standpoint, your survival in an ancient, tight-knit tribe depended entirely on your reputation. If the tribe thought you were selfish, you risked exile. And in the ancient world, exile meant certain death. Therefore, it was practically much more important to look moral to the group than to be moral in your heart. We evolved to become masters of self-deception, subconsciously doing charitable or good things primarily to elevate our own social standing and ensure our safety within the pack. And this leads to a massive double standard in how we process the world around us. We strictly judge others by their tangible actions and outcomes. If someone else cuts us off in traffic, well, they are fundamentally a bad, reckless person. But when it comes to ourselves, we judge ourselves entirely by our noble intentions. If we cut someone off, it's just because we're running late and incredibly stressed out. We effortlessly convince ourselves we're doing the right thing when, fundamentally, we're actually just doing the selfish thing that happens to look excusable or good to the tribe. Which brings us to our final section, Section 6, Integrating Your Dark Side, Accepting the Shadow. Now, discovering all these harsh facts isn't just an excuse to throw your hands up and become a total nihilist. Understanding your primal self is really about radical awareness. Because perhaps the single most important takeaway of this entire exploration is this. The most dangerous person in the room is always the one who genuinely believes they are purely good. Why? Because they are completely blind to their own capacity for harm. When you think you're an absolute saint, you can justify doing terrible things in the name of righteousness. Acknowledging your dark side brings awareness, and through that clear, honest awareness, you finally gain the actual power to control it, rather than letting it control you. The great psychoanalyst Carl Jung really hit the nail on the head here. True, robust psychological growth requires you to stop running and hiding from your primal nature. But what does integrating it actually look like in everyday life? It means noticing when you're dismissing a stranger's pain just because they aren't part of your 150. It means pausing when you desperately want something to ask yourself, wait, do I actually want this, or do I just want the status it brings? You have to understand your deep evolutionary roots, your tribal biases, and your sheer capacity for harm, and accept them as a core part of your human machinery. You start working with these aspects rather than pretending they don't exist. So if the insights in this explainer made you a little uncomfortable, good. That means you're actually paying attention and looking honestly in the mirror. I really want to keep this conversation going, so let me know your thoughts down below. Which of these primal truths do you find the absolute hardest to accept? Take a moment, really think about it, and I'll see you in the dark.